powered by intuition. My name is Brittany Purr, and this is the live recording. If you're watching this replay, just hang on, comment in the section below, and I would love to have a conversation with you. So just a few things. Just want to start out real quick because, some people are jumping on, takes a little bit of time, but I recently got this little guy. So if you are viewing on the clock app, you know where to find that around the screen. And then if you are viewing on the tube, it is in the description. And this thing, I just got it today. All right, it is working fantastically. You don't want to do it this way for whatever reason. It's kind of weird. It's like it's supposed to be designed to do it that way, but it actually works better when you do this backwards. So I, within 5 minutes, made a little cat scratcher, and I had this project like sitting around for almost a year because I didn't have this little device. So if you are tuning in and you have the Kitty Cats, definitely get it, especially if you like to recycle, reduce, reuse, and why are you eating my headphone cord? Anyways, so we have an interesting topic today. Welcome Queen B, welcome Nguyen, Travis. This topic is a different one, and there is a big thing that's been happening lately if you're not familiar with it, and it is called, by a familiar name that you might know, something that you might be replacing a lawn with. It's called AstroTurf, and I highly suggest looking into this because the rabbit hole goes deep. And there are other channels and other places that kind of cover this more comprehensively. Now, if you're an influencer, or if you follow major influencers and they're doing something like, oh my gosh, what are the Dems doing? Still at this point, that's something that they've been told to promote or put out there. And it's not just them. There are multiple different things. It's a triangulation dynamic. So we're going to speak on this in the way of how you would deal with a person with narcissistic tendencies, because that is the playbook. So a person with narcissistic tendencies will have what's called a flying monkey dynamic. Like the Wicked Witch had her flying monkeys, her henchmen doing the work for her. So you will have a charismatic person that will have people go out and do these things, especially if they want to convey something to you or manipulate you or gaslight you. And if you're not familiar with that term gaslighting, it is a term that is used to have you deny yourself, have you deny trust within yourself, and do what they can to make that happen. And this is happening online. That literal playbook is being played out right now. And if you are not an aware person, you will fall for it. And a lot of people are, especially those who consider themselves activists. So if you are passionate about something, that passion is being twisted. That passion is being used to make a confirmation bias. Now, what is confirmation bias? You already have a predisposed idea of what is going on, even though you may not be directly part of what is going on, but you have this idea that this is going on and this is happening and this needs to be handled in this way, which is the way that you would handle it. But not everybody is you. Not everybody is supposed to handle it in that way. Not everybody is the finger, the index finger, right? Not everybody is the index finger. But there are people who are being told that they need to expect everybody to be exactly like them. Kind of sounds authoritative, doesn't it? Very authoritarian, doesn't it? So, as we progress down this path of what is happening right now, if you look at history, if you consider history, which is something that is to help you go into the future and be aware of and learn from and review so that A, we come out on top, B, we know how to handle certain situations. Like, I have my great grandmother's memoirs that helped me to navigate COVID. If I didn't have that, I wouldn't have an understanding of these situations or an understanding that, hey, we have it rough now, but not as bad as my great grandmother did. Okay. So we need to look at history. And history kind of informs us on human behavior. And a lot of people are not versed in human behavior. A lot of times when I find when I bring up, hey, this behavior is reminiscent of this, people get up in arms, they freak out, they feel like they're being gaslit, or they accuse me of all these wild fantasies that they have made up about the situation. And we're going to address that right now because that sort of reactivity is how people can control you, right? You have already lost control of yourself. Self-control is not optional. You need to have self-control and self-mastery in this day and age. And sorry, gentlemen, I love you. I value and appreciate you. So this is not at all anything misandrous, but a lot of men have a hard time regulating their emotions or having emotional intelligence. So things like road rage or risky behavior or other things tend to happen. And a lot of guys are being corralled and manipulated. I'm going to get to why in a moment. Are being corralled and manipulated to let go of their actual power. And every time you flip out or blame someone else for issues, or I've even heard men sit there, well, I'm not 6 foot tall and I'm not this type of body type and I'm not this and I'm not that, so I can't get a woman. And it's like, sir, you just need to become the man that attracts that woman. And women are saying what they need of you, but then you're being taught to not listen to women or not understand women or run in this fantasy world that's been pre-programmed within you from a very young age. Now we're going to get into why. People are leveraging that as marketing, especially when it comes to getting young men into this. I have a feeling on who that is and who is also working on this concept that I brought up earlier, which is called astroturfing or triangulation, if you are familiar with narcissistic tendencies and narcissistic dynamics. And it's also flying monkeys, which a charismatic person with narcissistic tendencies will convince others of a reality and then have those others go out and try to manipulate you into believing that reality. So like playing with that, you are your 5 closest friends dynamic, or you are the 5, you are the combination of the 5 people closest to you. If you do not have an understanding of your identity, if you do not have an understanding of knowledge and wisdom, if you do not have discernment, you will fall for it. And a lot of people are. So a lot of young men are unfortunately being preyed upon. And this is literally being preyed upon because a lot of women are like, hey, we just need this. And the guys are like, you're the problem. And this is unacceptable and blah, blah, blah. And I don't even have to listen to women and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, it's not working for anybody. It's not working for anybody. What are the results that you're creating? And nobody's telling these young men or many people to look at the results. And what a real coach or someone with a vested interest in you will bring you into is saying, what is your goal? Okay, you want that super hot bombshell woman. Great. How are you going to make that happen? And let's stop focusing on the surface and let's start focusing on what her personality is like so that you can have a happy life, so that you both can coexist in the best way possible, right? Because if you're in that relationship dynamic and that woman is just using you, or from the woman's perspective, if you're just in relationship for money and everything else is excruciating and that's vapid. That is not a fulfilled life. That is not a happy life. That is not sustainable in any way, shape, or form. And then the rug gets pulled out from under you because you're going on the surface BS instead of what really matters. And I've heard people try to create a goal of like, well, I just want to be famous so I can support my family. That's not how you support your family. I've heard of several celebrities that I've had a chance to speak to saying that winning those awards, those prestigious awards, were the worst and most loneliest time in their lives. That is not a goal to be famous. The goal is, hey, I want to live in my passion. The goal is, I want to have self-mastery. The goal is, I want to become the person that I want to be rather than the person that I'm being manipulated into being. Let's reinstate that. I want to be the person that I want to be instead of the person that I'm manipulated into being. That is a goal. And then who is that person that you want to be? Do you want to be that person that attracts an incredible individual? Or do you want to be that person that lets it all go for the almighty dollar? What seems better for you? Living life on your terms or living life as a shell of a human on another's terms? We need to restore our humanity. And part of our humanity is emotions, right? When you are not able to master your emotions, you are not a master of anything. You are not in power. You are not in control. Someone else is in control of you. And so when it comes to activism, if you are not sitting there having critical thought on these situations, you're going to succumb to some nastiness because it's very passionate. It's very emotional work. It is very fueled with a variety of different things that, maybe harm to humanity, harm to women and children. It could be a lot of these nasty things. So it's hard to not get passionate or caught up emotionally in these things. You have to have self-care and you have to ground yourself. So let's talk about what emotional intelligence is, because a lot of people don't understand what that is. A lot of people don't understand what real power is, especially when it comes to men. I just witness this a lot with men. That is not a fact. This is just an observation. Once again, that is not considered a fact. That is just a personal observation of my own. Okay, let me just preface that. So let's do kind of like an idea of what it is to master your emotions or to have emotional intelligence. But I'm going to call it emotional mastery, self-mastery. Because if you want to be powerful, if you want to master anything else, start with yourself. Start with yourself first, okay? Emotional intelligence is like this, right? You run on a emotional baseline. Emotional baseline, okay? When you are off, your emotions can go like this. They can be a roller coaster ride, right? If you've experienced that before, you can understand suddenly you're anxious and then suddenly you're, let's say, hopeful, and then suddenly the rug is pulled out from under you and you're just on the floor crying or feeling miserable or feeling like this is the end to everything. And we don't want that. We want an emotional baseline. And this is why the calmest person in the room is often the scariest person in the room, because they are in power. They are in control of themselves. They are mastering themselves because their emotional baseline is like this, because they are ready to address the situation and to balance themselves. They are in control of the situation. They are in control of themselves. That is why that person is the scariest person in the room. And it's kind of very fascinating to me that a lot of the manosphere, for lack of a better word, is not teaching young men to manage their emotions and to be in control of themselves. They're actually doing the opposite, because when you do the opposite, marketing can take control, and that marketing can lead to factors of like addictive behaviors. And that's kind of what they want, because if you're addicted to a product, they're going to keep making money off of you. And that's what's happening a lot with that situation, which is really sad and not okay at all. Like it's heartbreaking to actually see that, and to kind of look at the trajectory of where does this go? If this, then that. I've been saying this every week. If this happens, then that happens. It's consequences of these actions. So if you start someone on something and their understanding of this thing is now kind of locked in with this is how this thing is and how it's going to look and how it's going to be. This is also with activists too. How it's got to look, how it's going to be, how the only reason this can work within life or be resolved, and they really ignore possibilities. So they're kind of locked in this mentality and mind frame, and they're holding on to it because this feels safe when they're being pulled and pushed in different directions, and that's the only thing you can hang on to. So having emotional intelligence is understanding, okay, I'm starting to get angry. I'm starting to get depressed. I'm starting to feel anxious. I'm starting to feel this way. And then you manage it. You maintain your baseline to where you're not pushed and pulled all over the place, and you're managing what you can manage in your life. You're handling what you can handle in your life. And this baseline only stays a baseline when you are in control of yourself. Thank you so much for that gift. Appreciate it. When you are managing your emotions, you have self-control, you have self-mastery. So you gotta work on it. It's a work in progress. It takes a long time to get to that space, because when we're working with something that is utilizing the playbook of a narcissist or of those with narcissistic tendencies, then the playbook is very well established out there, because it is designed to remove self-trust, self-mastery, self-reliance, self-sovereignty. They can make 2 + 2 = 5. They can make the blue sky seem purple. They can do a lot to you when you are not in control of yourself or your emotions. Now, when you are, that's very scary for them, because they're not controlling your reality. And that's kind of the MO of the playbook, or the narcissist's playbook, is to control reality, because that is safe for them. If you are locked into this character, if you are, when it comes to the marketing or what's happening in this day and age, when you are locked into this paradigm and you can't see out of it, you will keep buying into the machine. You will keep feeding the machine instead of feeding and nourishing yourself and your sovereignty and your freedom and your wisdom. Hello, and thank you so much, Stana, for the gifts. Cool, thank you. And just, you got to stay balanced. And oof, there is a lot to cover on this. But the first step is start doing self-care. Second step, start questioning things. I want you to look at the results that are being created. I want you to begin to vision cast your results, which means, hey, I want to do something that is within my control to handle within my community. So for me personally, like right now, I am indulging in self-care. I'm taking care of my own businesses. I'm working on building my business. I am working on getting things established in different ways so that I'm not working so hard. but I'm making income. And no matter what happens, I'm staying aware of cryptocurrency, of the changes, and I want to be ahead of the curve, right? So that's kind of my vision casting is no matter what happens, I want to be unf-withable and make the best outcome possible for me because that's what I have. That's what I have. And if that means, hey, I need to support my community, I will support my community. Like the other week, I had to stop a reckless driver from trying to hit a coyote and harming others in the neighborhood and call him out on it and file a police report and do that stuff. I was there to witness it. I was there to stop it. I was there to step up. Let me say that again. I was there to witness it. I was there to stop it. I was there to step up. And then I warned the community about that because I care about this community. That is within my power to support this community and to help people out. A lot of people are not doing that. A lot of people will sit down and look the other way instead of stepping up and taking an actual stand and controlling what they can control. Like I can't control that person, but I could make every effort to stop that person. Guess what? I did because I made the effort to do it, period. That takes courage. That takes courage. That takes emotional mastery. That takes me knowing I am a person that is here right now and I can handle this situation. Even if this person tries hauling off and attacking me, I am ready and aware to handle that. My emotional baseline, I might have gotten loud. No, I definitely got loud. But even though I was loud, it didn't get out of control. I was in control of the situation. How I could tell the result I created, I got the person to stop because he turned around and tried doing it again until I stopped him. That's looking at the results of your actions. If you are not creating the results that you want, you are not taking the right action. So if your idea of a result is, hey, fascism sucks, let's cancel fascism, and you're doing things to undermine the helpers to cancel that, then you're not aligned with your goal. You've probably fallen for something else that is not aligned with your goal. Because a lot of times, once again, looking at history, if you take history into account, when these things happen with what's happening in the US government right now, there is a counter reaction. Now, we're going to rewind the clock a little bit. We're going to rewind it to COVID. That period of lockdowns, BLM, that stuff is part of the causation or correlated with what's happened now. It's correlated. Correlation is not causation, so I did fix that statement. Just putting that out there. I'm going to be honest and in integrity. That's another thing. If you have an emotional baseline, it doesn't matter. You are un-F-withable because you're okay with saying, I made a mistake. If you're not okay with saying, I made a mistake and putting that out there and dealing with the consequences of your mistake, you are not in control. Okay. You are running away, cowardice, in that sort of state. All right. So I made a mistake there. So I want to fix that. There is a correlation between what happened with BLM and the lockdowns of COVID. And this is what I've heard firsthand from some of the people that were impacted by those lockdowns. And these were business owners. They had such a visceral reaction. Instead of working and taking action, they had a reaction, which means they're acting out of an emotional state and not for the betterment of themselves or others. Now, they don't understand that they're not working in results of the betterment of themselves and others because they're seeing things in a very tunnel visioned, very myopic state, right? If a lot of regulations, they pushed to remove regulations because it was so heavily regulated. Okay. So now a lot of regulations are removed. And when it comes to air quality, unless you are dealing with a fully sealed household that has oxygen pumps running and completely strictly cleaning the air and testing air quality 24/7, you are going to be impacted by changes in the air quality as regulations are loosened around pollutants. You are going to be impacted by this. And then, you know, then there are other things that are being questioned, and it's like, this impacts those other things too. This impacts your quality of life. This impacts your children's quality of life. If you have children, this impacts your ability to have great relations in the physical sense. This impacts you. Doesn't matter who you are. It is not discriminate. It does not discriminate based on your financial standing. If you are breathing the air anywhere and these regulations are loosened, you're still going to be impacted by it. Maybe not as much as the person right next to a big factory, but you will be impacted by it. And they're not taking the cause and effect in a totality, in the total sense of it, into consideration. Which was very fascinating when I brought up air quality issues, and they had no idea about this. And I am talking about tech pros. It's been very interesting to see that myopic vision based on reactivity and ego. Ego is a protection mechanism and is not anything bad. It's something that needs to be mastered. Self-mastery, right? That is the theme here. So, and that ego got triggered during lockdowns of COVID. Now, a lot of the activism right now is based in the BLM uprising. That was kind of, it almost seems like it was a test case, or the results or the data from that are being utilized in different facets of activism right now. And it's been very off base. It hasn't resulted in anything beneficial. It hasn't actually helped to achieve the goal that these activists are purporting or saying that they want to achieve. There's a lot of complaining, there's backbiting, there's hostilities, and then there's decisions that do not support their quote unquote goals that actually has been sabotaging to their activism, to the goals. Now, recently there is the whole files thing. If you know, you know. If you don't, doesn't matter. That's different. These are people standing up for what they know is right? Let's get these documents out there. Let's get the truth out there so they don't have to bear these burdens of being called liars, of being called this and that. They've gone through so much that they are asking for this and standing up and showing their faces and being very much in front of cameras, which is very risky. It's very scary. It can be re-traumatizing. There's a lot around it. And they are standing up for this. So they are meeting the goal. They are taking a stand for the goal. Now, when it comes to supporting a certain demographic or a certain group of people, sorry, hopefully you guys can still hear me over here. When it comes to supporting a demographic or a certain group of people, there's been a major miss on that because of this reason, because of the idea of astroturfing. And it is creating division rather than bringing people together. Now, that is the second thing that you need to be aware of. This is the triangulation dynamic that narcissists use. Those with narcissistic tendencies use. Triangulation is specifically designed to create division. So how do people with narcissistic tendencies leverage triangulation? It's they will be the point person for one person, and they will go, hey, let's bring up names, Bob and Mary. So the person with the narcissistic tendencies will go to Bob and be like, did you hear what Mary said about you? It's pretty nasty. She said, you are overweight and you look terrible. Like you just got out of a whatever festival and that you stink so bad. And she said, like, it's not ever going to change. Like you are just totally a ew, gross person. And then that person with narcissistic tendencies is going to go to Mary and be like, did you hear what Bob said about you? He was pissed off at you. Mary's like, what? Bob said, you are the most vile POS he's ever met. And Mary's sitting there going, what did I do? And it's like, I don't know. Bob said you knew. So now Mary and Bob are at odds. Mary's like, oh my gosh, what's going on? Bob is like, I'm just going to steer clear of her if she's going to be like this. And they're going to not like each other. That's the triangulation dynamic. And now the person with a narcissistic tendency has control over those two. They're separate. They can't compare notes about the person with the narcissistic tendencies because now they're pitted against each other. This has been a problem with the activism as of late. The activism is pitting people against each other. It's my way or the highway. It's authoritarianism. It's fascism. If you are not willing to meet people where they are at, get the intel necessary to help support people, to understand people, and you're running on self-righteousness. Kind of interesting how that's kind of mirrored and patterned when you're looking at these situations, these groups of people. Their behaviors are exactly mirrored because person number 3 with the narcissistic tendencies or the narcissist playbook has manipulated them both. And they're reacting in the same way. Instead of creating unity, they are creating division. It's a triangulation dynamic. And a lot of people are not versed in how narcissists operate. And so when you do not have that emotional control or baseline to not get triggered, to not take bait on this, and you have courage to actually connect, to actually hear from a person's mouth what is going on, the power of those with the narcissistic tendencies who are trying to manipulate you goes away. It goes away. It goes away. It's a little harder online. And I'm going to kind of wrap up with this. It's a little harder online because online is not really real. That online friend that you have might not be who they say they are. They might be pretending. They might say they are something, and on the back end, act like and behave like what another side is told to fear in that type of person. And that person is not actually who they say they are. And if you don't know them in reality outside of the internet, you can get duped pretty easily. It's not that hard. AI is doing a lot of the work already. I've seen so many videos of like these stately professor type people that are teaching from stage, and they're elderly. They don't look very, they're not young. So, they got wrinkles and they don't look perfect. And I am just looking at the movements and I'm like, the movements are not, it's not how a human moves. It's AI. It's a little rubbery. It's a little weird. The dialogue is off. Their lip syncing is a little different. Oh, by the way, you can't see the definition in their teeth, or, they're specifically not focused on hands because AI can't do hands. It's not real. And they're trying to pass it off as being real. And that's what the astroturfing is about. It's trying to pass off something as real that's not. And it's a sales and marketing tactic that is designed to manipulate you if you do not have critical thinking skills or discernment, real discernment, to ask questions. And to ask questions takes courage. Some people will pop off and react in the craziest of ways. But you got to stay steady at that emotional baseline and not let them mess with you. But it takes time. It takes time. Don't expect this to happen tomorrow. Just start looking at these situations. Start asking, is the road rage worth it? No? Okay, slow down, be chill, turn on some cool music, self-care, get somewhere where you can relax, yell, scream, turn on some metal music if you need to like belt to that or whatnot. Do something to relieve that energy and to balance yourself. If you're not in control of yourself, someone else is controlling you. And harkening back to what I mentioned on the manosphere earlier, a lot of these young men are being taught to not be in control of themselves. And they're saying that women are controlling them. Oh, it's because of her. Oh, it's because she. Great. I can make you do all sorts of things. I don't think that's a good thing. I don't think that's a good thing to have power paradigms in a relationship. That is exhausting. That's the furthest thing from fun. That's the furthest thing from fulfillment or enjoying life or an actual relationship with a person that is your equal, although they fill different needs within the scope of being human. So I'm going to wrap it up with that. And I wish you all a good night. I will be over on the Clock app. Feel free to follow me over there. It is under my name, which you can see right here. And yeah, I look forward to having a discussion. Please post your comments. It's been an interesting evening. I think I kind of poked at a beehive a little bit, which was kind of funny. But I hope that those people, because there are people on the other side, received the wisdom and knowledge to take a stand in their lives and not just do things for money, but work on actual fulfillment, on their identity, on who they're meant to be and what they can actually give to the world in a beneficial way, rather than take and be manipulated and be controlled and not have who they authentically are. So I hope that helps. And let me know what actually supported you on different modalities of how you can handle getting into more of an emotional baseline, emotional mastery, rather than being pushed and pulled. So there's a lot of tactics. Let me rally them off real quick. Self-care, real self-care. Stop offloading things that are not working on others. Start looking at building goals and looking at results. If I do this, then will this goal that I make actually happen? If you need help, AI is there to assist you. Do not rely on AI to do everything for you. AI is a tool for learning or to help you do things that you cannot do on your own. Manage what you can manage within your life. Do not overload your plate with like the doom and gloom. Deal with your direct community. Handle only what you can handle within your direct community. Sorry, brain farting on another one. Stay out of business that you have no business in. If you feel your emotions crop up, start naming them, recognize them quickly, and then address them in a healthy way. So if you feel yourself getting angry and you want to put pedal to the metal and you're driving a car, Turn on some like heavy metal music or whatever will help to diffuse that energy. Take actual healthy actions and not actions that will create more problems for you down the line, right? If this, then that. If I road rage, then I have the chance of harming someone else. Then that might lead to jail, or it might lead to a ticket. Wow, that sounds like a great result, right? So start calculating your behaviors and what happens next. If I, dump toxins in the local reservoir, then that has the ability to affect me and others. And then that's a lawsuit, things of that nature. You got to really understand consequences. If this, then that. If this, then what can happen? Start getting strategic, start getting curious, start questioning, start asking open-ended questions, not like, well, if you do this, then you must be that, right? No, like, let's ditch the assumptions and start actually opening up to reality, humanity. Do what you can to control your emotions and be mindful of yourself. That is true control. That is true power. That is the state of unf-withable. And I really look forward to more people getting into that. So thank you for joining. I will take questions over on the other platform, and I'm going to end the stream here. Have a good one on the tube.